My oldest is a perfect storm kiddo. And I don't even know that you know this, but I met you at Life in Atlanta, and he was talking about my kid up there, and talked to him after and said, this is it. And I was sold.
All right, chiropractors and chiropractic students, welcome to the Family Practice Podcast. You know, the one you've been waiting way too long for, because this podcast will actually stay focused on chiropractic. Not only what it takes to get world-class clinical results for kids and families in your community, but also what it takes to build a legendary, incredible family practice that takes care of your family way beyond your dreams. I'm Dr. Tony Ebel, and I'll be joined by Dr. Matt Hill, Dr. Ellie Wright, Jackie Jacobowitz, and incredible guests, chiros, associates, CAs, all these folks making massive impact around the world. We're going to cover everything: pediatric, perinatal, family practice. This is the podcast you've been waiting for, because moms and dads and families have always needed us. Now they're finally ready for us. I hope you're ready for the Family Practice Podcast. Let's go. Welcome back to the Family Practice Podcast. What's up, chiropractors, chiropractic students? Today, we're giving you a backstage pass. So we have many layers and levels to this incredible mission and vision we're called to with the Pediatric Experience, PX for short. And so we've got our online action, we've got our certificate and clinical training. And because so much of this action has really been blowing up, practices have been blowing up, a lot of our PX folks were asking for a high-level business mastermind, and to really tap into myself, my incredible wife, Christina, who's going to be a regular contributor to this podcast for those chiro spouses who are running things behind the scenes, integration, organization. That's Christina's skill. So anyways, we launched Brick Builders. Now, this is a business mastermind and coaching group that is quite a bit different than your average bear chiropractic group, because we're not trying to get people to necessarily, start their multiple businesses or find freedom or those sort of things. Now, plenty of freedom comes when you build a team and you scale your practice in the way that we do. But we're looking to just take brick and mortar family practices and just grow them to a level that chiropractic has never seen. And so it's a very powerful group of docs who are doing that and want to do more of that. Dr. Lauren, 1 year only into practice, more than qualifies for this high-level group, because Dr. Lauren, as you're about to hear on this interview, so we did a couple of breakouts during our last quarterly meetup, so we get together in person, and we're recording them for all the members, and we thought, you know what, this was such an incredible conversation, not just for startups, because Lauren technically fits kind of the mold of startup expert, because she's literally 1 year and some change into practice, and I'll let you, she'll share her numbers, she'll share what's happening with her practice and her life and the miracles she's making happen in that community through chiropractic. But it's ridiculous, and it's so impressive, and it's so inspiring, and there's a lot to learn from it, which is why we brought her up in front of the mastermind and said, hey, how did you build this? And this conversation has a very specific focus to it, because what I want to intro here while introing Lauren, as I like to do with all my guest intros, is I like to really just make sure that the foundational lesson you're going to get from this episode, I actually want to state it and teach it in the beginning through a little bit of storyboarding and kind of like look inside my head with this. So then you hear it twice, 3, 5 times over, because the core principles, I want this podcast to not just be exciting and inspiring. I want this podcast to be the one where you have like 2 pages of notes from every single one. But within those 2 pages of notes, I want you to be able to pick up the golden thread and the through line. And I think that's where all the value comes from. Like, what is this really teaching me to do differently that others don't? What can I do from what I'm about to learn that will generate family practice growth success? What I've learned by being able to mentor, coach, guide, whatever you want to call it, now hundreds of startups. First, it was interns and associates from PwC who are going. A lot of our associates, it's very by design. They're here for 2 to 3 years to learn how to be clinical communication chiropractic wizards, and their family lives in another state and their life is in another state. So it's not a sad thing. It's not a breakup after that 2 to 3 years. It's a celebration. Like, we literally throw them parties and then they go crush it and they build a PwC and a PX office, and a family thriving practice somewhere else and impact lives there. So where I'm getting at is I've been able to mentor a lot of startups. Like, it's my obsession. As a pediatric guy, you can probably imagine my favorite chiropractor to serve is like the brand new baby in practice. That's the best, right? So they haven't gone through the storm. They haven't got hooked on back pain and shockwave and insurance dependency and decompression. And then we try and pull them out of the storm and put them into this beautiful family practice. They just get to start freaking wide open runway, green, let's go. That's Dr. Lauren. Not on her chiropractic journey. She'll tell you her whole chiropractic story. So she is starting this practice in Tennessee after having quite a different mom journey with her kiddos and quite a different chiropractic journey as well. But to Sprouting Life Chiropractic in awesome Tennessee, where she now goes. What Lauren did differently is she actually listened more than we've ever had anybody do it when we said, don't do this all yourself. Especially at this stage of life where you have kids and everything else going on, do this with team. Build a culture. Become a leader right out of the gates. And most startups, we sacrifice this for last. We try and boutique it. We try and bootstrap it. We try and do everything. Oh, I'll schedule my own patients through this app, and I'll do my own finances, and I'll do my own marketing, and I'll do my own. And when it works, geez, it might be worst when it works because then you're buried. Then you get hooked on it. Then you get stuck in it. You don't even know which way is up anymore. You're 2-3 years into practice. You're seeing 300, 400, 500 a week, and you're supposed to be the poster boy or poster woman of success. And you run your own HRV and you're like, I'm 29 or whatever age, and your nervous system is toast because you never learned how to build your practice via team and the team's core values and team's culture, and then do it together. So I always like to take that. I believe it's always called an old African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Has anybody ever asked the question, what if I want to go far and fast at the same time? That's me. That's the Family Practice Podcast. That's Lauren. Lauren is a lot like me. You'll see through this interview, we have a lot of fun. And so what Lauren told me is she goes, I want to go far and I want to go fast. So I know I need to do it with team. So this woman came up here to our team and leadership training. She invested into, she's not only a clinical wizard, a marketing wizard, a branding wizard, and a communication wizard, which are core principles of success. And those are topics we'll tackle all the time on this podcast and bring in other experts like Lauren. But she is a team building wizard, even as a startup. And so her journey is remarkable. Her journey actually is super personal, and you'll hear that story as well. She shares it with the crew and has said okay to sharing this recording with all of you as well. So get ready for this one. If you struggle with team, if you feel like it's all on your shoulders, if you are literally teetering on burnout, or you burnt out so long ago, you don't even remember what pushed you over the edge, this will change everything for you. You will love this podcast interview. It'll be such a sigh of relief for you to know, okay, this isn't the easiest thing to do, to build through team and become a leader, but it's the absolute right, foundational, impact-making, freedom to you and your kids and your family giving move, if there ever was one. So I love Dr. Lauren for so many reasons. She's also hilarious. She is a proud wife, mom to 4 kiddos. Her husband, there's a few jokes thrown her way. She's got a great chiropractic husband as well, who's getting in the game and serving and doing all the things too. She's just all in. That's Lauren. I don't think that's officially her middle name, but it could be Lauren All in Maslof. Let's go. Here's the podcast interview. Look behind the scenes from Brick Builders Mastermind, kind of a secret, no longer kept secret recording to how Lauren did it. Get your notebook out, tune in. Let's go. With this, we are going to also frame this up a bit live podcasty. Ooh, is the audio even good enough to just post it on the Family Practice Podcast? I just got myself a day off next month. Cheers on the mics. Okay, all right. Okay, all right. It's winter. I don't know what I'm going to do with that time. Can't go golfing, Trey, but all right. So first off, we have Dr. Lauren here. Who already knows Dr. Lauren has had some good chats? Raise your hands. Okay. Who doesn't? Who doesn't really know her story? Awesome. Yeah, let's go. So I want you to start there. It is extremely important, I think, in this case, because you had a lot of chiropractic experience prior to your PX experience, but not this kind. And so you started not only with a different kind of chiropractic you were going after, but you chose to grow a different kind of business in a different way, which we're going to do. So can you give us first, Lauren, the lowdown on your chiro journey to this point?
Yes. I have been a chiropractor for 15 years. And I've had all kinds of chiropractic jobs, associateships, independent contractorships, owned a franchise before. Kind of went through it all. And I found this type of practice through what most moms find us by. My oldest is a perfect storm kiddo. And I don't even know that you know this, but I met you at Life in Atlanta, and he was talking about my kid up there, and talked to him after and said, this is it. And I was sold. I went through the trainings, the certification, and opened my practice. I think from the time I talked to you to when I actually opened my practice was less than a year.
Was there plans to open a new practice at that time? Okay.
I have 4 kids, and I was a stay-at-home mom. And again, been a chiropractor for a long time. Knew I loved it, but it just wasn't working for my kid. Okay. And so I talked to you in August, did your startup challenge that at the end of that year, got certified in January, and opened my practice in May.
Can I and that's what we want to do. We have these, we're going to go through these, my homie, but as stuff comes out, we got to learn from it too together. So you loved chiropractic in that season prior to this. Did you doubt it at all in terms of pediatrics and what it could do for kids when your kiddo was struggling? Real life question.
I don't think I ever doubted it. I just knew I didn't know enough.
That's awesome. Fantastic. How awesome is that, right? To remain the conviction. That doesn't surprise me as your answer at all, because you have confidence and conviction in chiropractic. You literally just didn't have the how-to, right? And that doubted. Okay, awesome. So you did not have plans to open a practice.
Not right then anyway.
Yeah.
Not at that moment.
And you have 4 kiddos.
Yep.
So with that, you had to do things differently, right?
Right.
So when you went to go through the startup program, and let's skip past, because we're in Brick Builders, let's skip past the clinical and skip past the care planning. That we know is awesome. And I remember you front row at those seminars. I remember you going through that content, but you were also front row team and leadership. You were front row business training. What stood out? What part of that did you choose to do differently than pretty much all other startups? Like, you heard this lesson that we say, but not everybody hears it.
I think it just spoke to my heart again, especially having a perfect storm mom. I knew this was it. I knew this was my calling, and I knew I couldn't fail. Not just for my kids and my family, but because I'm a mom, and because hearing the stories that you hear when you get in this group, I'm part of a community just like everybody else, and I know there are kids in my community struggling, and it was just that big of a calling on my heart that if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it the right way. I'm going to go all in, and it's going to be successful. Okay, the right way, all in as it concerns to team. How did you start your practice when it comes to who instead of just how? Well, in the beginning, I immediately hired a part-time CA because you told me to. And I also hired a part-time marketing CA to do PX Plus because that rolled out about the same time. And it was the 3 of us for the longest time. And we hit the ground running. And like all of you, it worked. And fast forward to now. You started with the front office and those things taken care of. Week 3.
And you started with PX Plus and social media taken care of.
Week 3, yeah.
So what did that look like in real life the first 90 to 180 days? Where were you able to really isolate and focus and concentrate your energy?
I mean, definitely on patience. I was having those conversations. I was out in the community too, making a lot of good community connections. I was talking to moms at my kids' soccer games and at ballet practice. I am definitely that person that can go to coffee and get 5 new patients real easily. And so I got to be that communicator and didn't have to worry about the scheduling, didn't have to worry about payments, back end of anything. I knew my marketing girl was plugging away at stuff. I had time to focus on the videos and the personal content and telling my story and why I was doing this. And I tell you what, that made the biggest impact. I remember the very first reel I made, this was before PX Plus. I don't even know it was a reel, it was just a video. And I told my why. And I remember being coached to, just tell your story, give a 5-minute video, tell your story why you're here. And I think this was even before I was in my office. And I had 3 people call and say, we need you now. What can we do? And started home visits. So, but having that team in place helped me so much to be able to focus on what I love doing. And that's where I'm at my very best.
So you immediately, literally actually before the office was ready, cranked content, hired team.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so, guys, we're going to keep going through this. You're going to see how continued awesome this gets because she made the investments in the two places that add up to more growth and more impact than anywhere else. And most of us, we're late to make them. And so she went early, and early actually isn't early. Early is actually the right time, right?
We were still behind.
Yeah. So that's where we're going next, right? And because it worked so well, all of a sudden you ran into some roadblocks. So you started to run into. Well, let's fast forward. We're gonna go to where you are, and then we're gonna come back to the middle. So how many? 1.5 years. What's the size of your team? And give us some stats. Let us have it. We're in Brick Builders.
All right. We just hired 2 new CAs, so we're up to a team of 8. I say we have 3 doctors, but one's my husband, and he's really a stay-at-home dad, but he comes to work in the office 2 shifts to not kill my kids.
What kind of decibels this guy gets? 0.2, 0.5? Is he half a chiro?
He doesn't get paid.
2.
He just volunteers so that our kids stay alive.
Fantastic.
So really, we're a 2-doctor office, but there are 8 of us total. I have a front desk full-time, part-time marketer still. We're kind of trying to get her to go full-time after this talk. Thank you very much. A scan tech, and a financial person, and a new hire, which is my director of operations, which we'll get to. But in a year and a half, we almost hit $500,000 this year, which was huge. We saw... I almost paid myself $12,000 just so I could hit that mark and be like, yes, first year, we did it.
I can't believe you didn't. I would have for sure. And I don't even know how to pay myself, but I would have, we see right around 250 patients a week. We're rocking about 30 new patients. It's been a little slower right now. We're kind of focusing on our team, so that slowed us down a little bit, but we're doing a perfect storm workshop a quarter. How would you describe your brand in your community? If you were to, how's the brand doing? I know that's a big 30,000 foot view question, but what's the brand like?
I feel like we're doing pretty well. I would say a lot of moms that come in have watched our stuff online and say, hey, we heard about you from another mom, or I feel like I know you. I've watched your videos. I've been stalking you for 3 months. I feel like when I say, oh, I'm at Sprouting Life, they're, oh yeah, I've seen your ads. I've seen your posts online. So I feel like it's stable, but
permeating.
Yeah,
it's building and permeating. Okay. All right, let's draw in on that team. So you had the front desk CAs, you had financials and scheduling, you had marketing help, and then as you got the team bigger, that added to your plate, right? In the way of organization and integration. And am I fair to guess you don't necessarily love integration, operations, and integration?
It's my favorite.
Yeah. So prior to this, and we're going to break down the hire and everything to it and how you guys are rocking from here, just give us the context, though, of what were the challenges with the team? You had it all rocking right with the size of the team, the scale of the team, the business is growing. What challenges were you, Lauren, personally feeling before you went down the Integrator COO hire?
We were moving, I don't think I had slowed down enough to go fast. I was just going fast. I wanted to be successful. I wanted to be impactful. And I definitely felt the strain of having all of these moving parts, having all of these team members, and wanting to empower them to own their position, but not fully training them on how to do that. And so while I thought that I was giving them empowerment and ownership in a place, things were still not getting done. And the ball was getting dropped, and I'm one of those that if a ball is getting dropped, I'm just going to handle it anyway. I didn't have time to, but it had to get done. So we finally got to the point where we were we did hit 300 a week for a little while before I brought on the associate. We were at 300 a week. I was doing all the business, all the adjusting, all the new patients, all of this stuff, and it was a lot. I hit that wall where I was like, I got nothing left. Videos dropped off, marketing kind of dropped a little bit, so it was tough.
What a great growth spurt, right? Growing pains, real life. I mean, this is why we wanted to draw on these conversations with you rock stars that are helping us here today, because the value of mentorship and being able to tap into people who have come and, gone through these stages before you, I think in a perfect world, we would all draw it up and go, well, if you could tell me what's coming and I'll avoid it altogether. We're looking to take the avoid it altogether path, but I don't know that that's actually the best personal growth for you. I think the best is, okay, I still hit that growing pain and I still hit that spot, but I understood it. I wasn't confused by it.
I knew where to go from it. So I hit it and was like, oh, this is what he was talking about. I'm there.
And go right away.
I should have hired 2 months ago.
Yeah. Does everybody get that? Everybody hear that? It's not about avoiding trouble. It's about knowing, recognize it instantly, and then having a clear direction, decision, and action to take to get out of it. So for you, finding an integrator was that. So what qualities, characteristics were you looking for? Because your team was missing organization. Because it's not I guarantee they weren't missing vision. I guarantee they had plenty of piss and vinegar and Spitfire because you got it. You got enough for 8 people, for a year. So they had that. But that's the opposite of organization. In fact, and everybody just hear this for how you are, you can get away without organization when you truly are all out obsession for a season. Like people will just sprint and get after it and grit it and figure it out to a certain volume. So for you, that sounds like it was about 300, right? And the team size was probably about 5 to 6. That's where you got. And then that was as far that could take. Okay, so what were you looking for when it came to an integrator? How were you going to make sure they were the right fit?
Well, honestly, it really came to a head at the first Brick Builders event, because that was when we talked about the face chart for the first time, and having that integrator, because I didn't know what I was looking for specifically. I knew I needed that helper to organize, but calling it the integrator was new that time. And so for anyone who doesn't believe that what you think about and focus on, you manifest, then I don't know what to tell you, because I literally already had this girl on my team, never had thought about it. But when I came home from that event, she shows up with a handwritten list of 3 pages, front and back, of all of the challenges that she saw with the staff and the systems that she could help with. She was at home working on our patient autopilot, so she wasn't even in the office that much, which made it even more heartbreaking. But I knew I needed the organization. I knew I needed someone to direct my thoughts, because like you said, I got to that point with just sheer obsession and determination to make it happen. And the one thing, when I had meetings with some of my girls, the one thing that they said they needed more of was clarity of their job. And that hit me in the heart too, because I thought, I'm so clear on this vision. We're so clear on where we're going and what we're doing. How can you not have clarity about what you need to be doing on a daily basis? So I knew that was one of the things I had to have. But honestly, once I found Brooke, she was online with the same vision. Like she understood the vision, and she was brought on because she was the mom of a patient. So she had been through the whole process. Jackie talked this weekend on one of her trainings that, she started as a buyer, became a believer, and her child was transformed and had that miracle happen. And when she came to me with that list, that broke my heart, of all the things that I'd been doing wrong and was failing at.
Just a suggestion box.
It was a suggestion list.
Just a few little sticky notes in there, She made it through like the first half a page, and I was like, whoa. We can either sit here for another 3 hours, or you can tell me what to do. And she was like, oh, don't worry, I can fix all of it. Yes.
But what she really said, and I know she didn't really say these words, but what I heard her say was, I trust you. I trusted you with my kid. I don't want to help you, but I want to help the impact that you're doing. And that to me meant everything. And I know we're going to get to this in a minute, but looking for that quality in someone that I see your vision. I'm here with you. I tell parents all the time when I'm sitting at a report, like, I know you want more happiness and health for your kid than anyone else in the world, but I'm a close second. And I tell parents that all the time. And I feel like she was that for me. And it was that moment in the report where she was like, I got you. We're in this together now. And so that honestly was the best quality I could have asked for.
I have no further questions. Legit. Let's pause there and just let our hearts have that one, because that's what we're going for in this business. We're not, you didn't come looking for, pay, but she wasn't like, oh, I bet I could get some great, oh, it looks like they have ping pong and kombucha, and great pay and great benefits. She came after you to serve in a role that only she can in her talents and the way God made her, in a massive void for the practice, the practice that needed it significantly at that time. And she saw through that role to the impact she could make. So when you're looking to bring people onto the team, or in this case, in lots of cases, level them up to the next role in their team, their why behind their want to do that role matters a whole lot more than their ability to do that role, which is really often proven out by people who don't have experience in said position that we put in there. Now, in an ideal world, we want somebody who's got the why coming out of their eyeballs in this case and has the skill set and the experience, right? That's what you're going for. That's what you want to hire for. And I just think it's worth saying again, too, that you're absolutely right. When you get into the right space mentally, this is what I need. All of a sudden, God's like, well, now you'll see it. I think it's that whole reticular activating system, right? Where it's like they've been there all along, but now you see it. So great work on that. Because there's one more step there. Lots of people would still freeze. Lots of people would talk themselves out of it. We've all had that. You've had something literally hit you right between the eyes and you've been like, and you come up with some excuses as to why it's not so true, right?
Well, and we talk about even the financial side of things. Like, she did have the experience. Sure. She came from an imaging company and was the manager for like 6 offices in our area. So she knows her stuff. And that was part of why I said, okay, what do we do? And basically, like, can I afford you? Yeah. And hearing the voices of everybody here and all the trainings in my head say, I can't afford not to. I can't afford not to, because she was an investment and she's already proven that 100 times over.
I just love you, Lauren. You do not wait around and theorize on anything. You just go find out. You are the only way to find out is to go. Yeah. You are the embodiment of that quote. I love it. All right. So what did you learn by going forward, letting go of control? So you got to see, maybe we should call COOs, CCOs, Chief Clarity Officer. Yeah. You're like, you didn't know how to do any of this? And your team's like, not a single bit of it, actually. We've been winging the shit out of it.
Really not sure what I was paying them for the whole time.
Same with if they were up to me, I'd be like, I don't know how to do it. You don't know how to do it? Dang it. We're really in trouble. So you have a Chief Clarity Officer. What did you discover letting go and getting that control of those operations over to her?
I think for me, it helped just for me to realize that I don't want to run the business side of things, and I don't need to. And you had a quote up here earlier that said, I actually cannot do everything. And I actually cannot do everything, as much as my brain likes to tell me that. And so honestly, the biggest thing in letting go was getting to find that fire again. And if you know me, I have a huge passion for this and a huge fire for this. So the fact that when a patient came in and said, you're different the past few weeks, what's going on? I got to tell them, hey, I made a new hire and I'm back to my old self. Like, I get to focus on what I'm the best at, what drives me, what's going to help make impact, what's going to help not just grow my practice, but my team members' families and the people that we're impacting. So again, I tend to be that visionary. Like, I know we need a more practical answer than that, but that's honestly what it was. It was giving me my purpose, making it more clear everywhere.
That's the most important answer you could have gotten. That's what those of us that are there now, we know exactly what you're talking about. And those of us that haven't quite turned that corner yet, you know exactly what she's talking about. Because you're feeling a little more burned out. You're maybe not bringing the same amount of joy and expression and everything to it. And so if you're feeling a little bit on the inside, your homies are noticing it.
Well, and especially, I mean, even with my family, my kids would say like, hey, Mom, are you coming home tonight? I hope so, and a lot of times that, even just that being the difference maker, even if I was passionate at work, wanting to be there for my kids and my family and make sure that they know that they're a priority as well. And so that even just helped to open up some more time that I could take a shift away from adjusting and use it as visionary so that I could be home on time instead of being adjusting in the weeds, doing the practice, and being home at 8:30 when all my kids are asleep.
It's energy distribution. Yeah. The more hats you wear, the more energy you've got to go to do them. But not all hats, not all functions are created equal in terms of the energy they pull from you. The ones you suck at and are not good at actually pull 10 times the amount of energy, which means when you drop one thing, which on a flow, I only do this 2 hours a week. but that 2 hours is not created equal to the 2 hours of you doing a workshop. You love that. And so you drop that one chunk of 2 hours, you drop that one function, and there's a lot more than that. And all of a sudden your energy just catapults back up, and now you can distribute that back to family and everything. Awesome. So what was the onboarding process like for your integrator? How did you make sure that first month, first 100 days was set up for success?
So we're still in our first 6 months. So we're still kind of learning as we go here. But I think the first thing that we did was she kind of jumped right in. Thankfully, again, she had some experience. She's a GSDer already. So she kind of implemented some easy wins to like a purchase order system, because my purchase order system was like, they have Amazon pulled up on their computer and my credit card's logged in and they just buy whatever they needed. So even just little things like a purchase order system, an online schedule so that everyone knew when everyone was working. So she had a few little things that made their life easier. But really, we kind of talked, the biggest thing I wanted her to do was come in and learn the team, get to know the girls, figure out what their strengths were, what they were good at, where they were struggling, where they could be supported the most. Because I knew if she was going to win and they were going to bring her on the team, that had to happen first. The team had to be behind her. And so that was the big thing. Plus the book Rocket Fuel, we kind of listened to it and read it together. That's been fantastic. That was another tool that we kind of used to kind of define that working relationship.
For sure. And everybody, I've got 2 more questions. We're going to do with each of these sections. We want you guys to ask questions too. We're going to, we want to have group questions from everybody. So if you've got them, start forming them up here a little bit. When you get to that part and now you're getting up and running, I know you don't feel like you're up and running fully yet, which I totally understand, but you're more than the first 2 weeks, right? So what is kind of your cadence, your habits, your routines of you two working together? Because it really is the push and the pull of the CVO and the COO, together. What do you guys got going there now to make this partnership work?
Again, right now with her still kind of getting in and figuring out where her authority is and starts and mine stops, we're basically just talking all the time. We have at least 2 meetings a week, whether they're official or unofficial, where we have at least 10 to 15 minutes to get on the same page. We meet before every team meeting, and we do team meetings every Monday with different topics, the town hall and things like that. But we have meetings before that to make sure we're both on the same page. Ideally, I would love to get it to where we have a scheduled meeting once a week or once every couple of weeks to get on the same page. But right now, I feel like it's just really important for us to be on the same page all the time.
When you need to chat.
Yeah.
Get a call, get a huddle, right? And do that. Do you know there's huddles on Slack? I just got invited into one the other day. It was the first time. John and I have what we call, this is us, right? We have an RD3. We do ours with rucksacks and outside, and we're like, hey, 2:00. But it is. You want to have a good system of the cadence. Say every Tuesday, this is when we get together. But then these 2 roles, you want that flex. Yeah. You want that on the fly. This has happened in the last 24 hours. Let's not wait. We do have a meeting in 3 days, but let's chat today. So great work. And then, so now you guys link up together. And one of the key features of a great integrator and a great organizer is they organize the other humans first, not just the systems, right? The systems are the low-hanging fruit, right? The purchase orders and that sort of stuff. The humans on the team are not the easiest mover arounders. So how did you guys work together to make sure you've got the right seats? Find which functions were maybe missing or duplicated. And then after you got, because that was the order of the training, right? That Maggie took us through, get the organization really organized and then find out, hey, you in the right seat. Are you maybe not supposed to be here together? Have you had some of that discovered?
We have. So when we did face charts back in September, this was before she came on, and I attempted to teach our team that. First round wasn't quite as success, but we tried. In light of that meeting, we did shift some seats on the bus, and I feel like the girls were really good about telling me, hey, you know what? This is something I'd really like to be doing, and this is something I really don't want to be doing. So we kind of moved things around. When we brought her on, and we'll be working on really perfecting that face chart, going forward. But when we brought her on, we definitely had challenges with a teammate because we were raising the bar, and there was a team member who wasn't ready for that and was set in her ways and didn't necessarily want to grow with the practice like we were wanting. And had I been a more experienced veteran practice owner, I would have seen the signs to probably let her go. Hey, she's not bringing her kids in as much. She's not asking to get adjusted as much. She's not putting forth the effort. But bringing on a team member who's really ready to level up asks that of everyone else, and it raises the tide. So it definitely brought out some of those symptoms of, hey, this one may not need a seat.
So this exact function and this exact job, how much do you want to be involved in it going forward?
Wait, what?
So keeping the team all organized, knowing whether somebody needs to move or not. Do you want to be removed from that entirely?
I would love to.
Okay. All right. That's why I asked you. It's not on here. It's not on here. But yeah, it's not you, but it is you.
Yeah, she loves it. She in hiring. So in losing this one girl, we've been in the hiring process, and it was funny because she came to me and said, "Are you going to come with me to the interview?" And I was like, "Oh, you mean you could do it by yourself?" Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yep. No, and I bring that up because that's one of those like far-reaching goals that somebody might have told you is not possible and you can't ever get out of it. So leadership, because we really want to scale your leadership, and leadership is just like marketing. You only have so much time to go around, doing meetings and doing interviews and doing one-on-ones and doing everything else. And I literally just don't have that time. I don't have that skill set. I don't enjoy it, even if I were to. And I read all the books of how to do it, and I've seen I could use this review system. But every time I did it, it was like pulling my fingernails off, and I don't think I did it successfully. Right? So the right move is to get the big enough fish on the team, empower them to do the job, and you can absolutely get rid of that going forward. And the practice will be better served by it, right? Because if you loathe it, you're not good at it. You're not going to be in a good spot with that. So guys, don't just set the goal here from this session with Lauren, I got to get an integrator and get an organizer. Don't just take the first step, bam, there they are, and you're done. How far are you going to take them? How much are you going to empower them? I'm not involved in team reviews anymore. I'm not involved in one-on-ones. I'm not involved in those things because we have, this really, really built out to that degree.
So I hired an integrator last year as well, which has been crucial. How do you handle, if you've experienced it yet, friction between you and your integrator where they want the practice to be doing something that you don't want it to be?
I will answer, but I will say that we haven't quite gotten to that point yet. We're still in the dating phase, although I did propose to her a few weeks ago, so we're kind of doing things a little backwards. So she and I particularly haven't gotten to that point. There have been times where she's done something or created something that I didn't love. Even in the hiring process, she had gone and created some interview questions, or what was it? To get people to, job posting. See, that's how little I know about this. She made a job posting and sent it to me to say, hey, was this okay? I hope so, because it's already out. And I was like, I don't love it. And the reason why we work so well is she was like, cool, I know I'm still new to this, but where can I tweak this? What can I do to make it better? And we kind of go from there. I also have enough humility to know that she knows a lot more about this stuff than I ever want to. And so if there ever is that point, I can fully imagine me being like, cool, you have more experience. If this is your best judgment, let's do that. We are currently working on the decision-making framework and kind of going through that, and lining up our vision has helped a ton too. Because she knows where I would make decisions from. She knows, she was even looking at some of the marketing stuff that came through on our ad guys. And there was this creepy Santa, and she was like, what do you think of this? And I was like, what do you think? That's scary. And she was like, yeah, that's what I thought, delete. And so as the fact that she is understanding and learning where I'm making decisions from, I think has made a huge impact. And that's kind of been our cheat code to why it's been so successful so quickly. Vision lined up. We went through that decision-making framework. She knows where I'm coming from, and I think that solves a lot of problems, trusting her intuition and brilliance.
I have seen visionary and integrator crush together, not without friction. Never seen it without friction, never experienced without friction, but the friction doesn't stop anything. It actually forges it and makes it better when, just to recap, because it's real as rain, when the vision is the only thing that motivates these two people. I've also seen a lot of people in our shoes who want to grow their practice so they can make more money and have more freedom and take more vacations. So they follow the book, they follow traction, they follow rocket fuel, and it falls apart. Because in that case, the vision isn't leading that relationship, money is. And so money can never repair anything in there. And so you'll all be in a good seat because you're gonna have friction, but the friction will never slow you down. The friction will actually speed you up and make you better because you guys are gonna be just pure doing it for the right reasons. And I know how cliche that sounds, but it is what it is, right? All right, one more question.
Okay, so we've actually been kind of talking about this process. So it would be someone that's a current patient in our office, not on our current our team. And so I think my mind is a little bit more around how do we bring that structure, like with a schedule for her? Because it would be leaving a consulting position and then coming on board of our team. And and I would love your feedback on this. Like, don't know if I see her in the day-to-day operations, like helping them, but more just kind of like that 30,000 foot bird's eye view. So she's a full-time mom though. So it's also like, how do we help capitalize her schedule and her be there and get to know our team?
I know the way we did it. She's been there at our office a lot more than what we initially planned. I definitely knew during the beginning onboarding process it'd be a learning curve. But I really thought that there would be a lot of at-home stuff, learning our EHR and things like that. But again, she saw the opposite, was like, I know I need to be there. So getting her started, there was a lot of time in the office where she was with the team and basically followed the team. So she wasn't necessarily getting trained by my staff, thank God, but she was watching what they were doing.
Watching the English, like, what do you want me to do?
Right. But she was there watching, and so she shadowed the team for certain shifts, and I assume she went home and made notes. I don't know what she does, but she just has solutions. As far as structuring like a training, I think that's really on our end been communication. Our training has been getting to know each other and her finding places where she could make impact, and then having a sit down of, okay, what does that impact look like? And she's asking me questions of like, well, where do you see this going? What do you see happening here? And taking my answer and saying, okay, what does that actually look like physically in the office? And then a lot of times that turns out with a feedback meeting saying, hey, that's really not going to work. Let's try this other thing. And then she'll come back with an idea. So I don't even know that it's necessarily like the CA Momentum course training or anything structured like that. It truly is a more flexible, fluid relationship where she's learning from the team and I'm learning from her and she's learning from me. And I mean, it is really, our relationship is kind of a living, breathing thing right now where we're playing off of each other. And again, big vision in mind. It's so easy to go back and forth because that's always there, central, holding us together. So as far as structure, I think there's probably more time in the beginning, just watching, learning, communicating, getting to know.
Holy cow. Talk about fluid and flexible learning right there on the spot. Big round of applause for Dr. Lauren here. Hey, Dr. Tony here, and I wanted to say thank you for listening to the Family Practice Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, like and subscribe to the show so you don't miss a thing. Also, if you're looking for more content from us, you can absolutely subscribe to our newsletter, watch exclusive episodes on YouTube, and dive deep into the articles and blogs on our website. All of this is linked in today's show notes. Thanks again, and we'll see you on the next episode.